Yedid nefesh avarachamon Meshach avdecha haritzoynecha Yaharutz avdecha kama hayahayom Yishtachave lemol hadarecha Yerahav lo yedid doisecha Mina hefesuf V'chol toham Higaleina Ufreis chavivi alai Yesu kashloi mecha Ta'ir eretz mikvoidecha Nagila v'nismecha bach Maherehoi Kiva mahayed v'chaneinu ki me'aylam Did-it-la-la-la-la, did-it-la-la-la-la, did-it-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la, did-it-la-la-la-la, did-it-la-la-la-la, did-it-la-la-la-la-la-la, did-it-la-la, did-it-la-la-la-la, did-it-la-la-la-la, did-it-la-la-la-la-la-la, did-it-la-la, did-it-la-la-la-la. La 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 ya ma 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 did it la 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 did it la 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 did it ya ma 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 did it la 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 la, did it la 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 la, did it la 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 la, did it la 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 la, did it la 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 la, did it la 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 la. A very good Erev Shabbos Parshas Vaeschanen to you all. This is also known as Shabbos Nachamu. It is the Shabbos that comes immediately after the fast of Av, which commemorates a sad occasion of the destruction of the temple and other tragedies which happened to the Jewish people over the years. And this is the first Shabbos after the 9 days after all that is over. And it's called Nachamu because the opening words of the Haftorah begin with Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, Yemar Elekechem. Comfort ye, says your God. I remember the late Jack Hansen, this was his Bar Mitzvah Sedra, and he loved to sing those words whenever he had Haftorah. Olav Shalom, you should have a Lichtike Gan Eden. It is a Shabbos of comfort because the 7 weeks that take us from the Shabbos after Tisha B'Av to the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, all the Haftorahs are words of comfort, of futuristic views of how things will be when Mashiach will be here, when the world will righten itself, when pandemics will be forgotten, and there will be only good health and good fortune. And so the first of these is Nachamu Achmi. Nachamu is a double comfort. Nachamu, Nachamu. You should be comforted twice as much. And the 3 punishment Haftorahs, which radiated through the 3 weeks which we just finished, are now more than compensated more than twice as much by the 7 of comfort, the 7 Haftorahs of comfort. It is also the parsha in which Moshe repeats the 10 commandments, and I will give you a short resume of this Sedra. The Moshe is of course in his repetition of all the laws, Deuteronomy, of all the laws and events that had happened to the Jewish people, particularly since they left Egypt and they were about to cross over the Jordan into the land of Canaan and make it into the land of Israel. And he tells them how he had implored God to allow him to enter the land of Israel, but God had refused, instructing himself to instead to ascend a mountain and see the promised land, but not arrive there. In fact, Vaeschanen has a numerical value to it. All the letters have a number, and the number that reaches 515. God had 515 supplications from Moses Please can I go into Israel? Please can I go into... Talk about, asking again and again. He definitely did that. Until eventually God said, look, it's not on the cards. If you ask me one more time, I will let you go in. But it's not meant to be. And Moses never asked that. 516th occasion. Why did he not go into Israel? Because when God had said, talk to the rock and bring forth water, he smote it instead. And that constituted a deviation from God's commandment and something that God could not counter. Actually, he never intended him to go into Israel. But there's a difference between God stopping him and Moses stopping himself. As is always, we are masters of our own destiny, even Moses. So, continuing his review of the Torah, Moshe describes the exodus from Egypt and the giving of the Torah, declaring them unprecedented events in human history. Has there ever been such a thing that the likes have ever been heard? Hashamak Om Kol Elokim Medaber B'Teich Eish. Did you ever hear that God will communicate to all of the people? Remember, God communicates to everybody. 2.4 million Jews, men, women and children, not just Moses. And Moshe predicts that in future generations the people will turn away from God, worshipping idols, and be exiled from their land and scattered amongst the nations, but from where they will seek God and return to obey His commandments. Our Parsha includes a repetition of the Ten Commandments and the verses of the Shema, which declare the fundamentals of the Jewish faith, the unity of God. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Those famous words that almost every Jew knows off by heart. This is in this week's Sedra. It carries on with the mitzvahs to love God, to study His Torah, and to bind these words as tefillin on our arms and heads, and inscribe them in the mezuzahs which are fixed to the doorposts of our home. That's a brief resume of the Parsha. It's all in this week's Sedra. I'd like to read to you the Ten Commandments as a reminder of what we should be reading in Shul tomorrow. And they go as far as this. Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeicha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeis avadim lo yeh lecha Elohim acherim al panai lo yisaseh lecha pesel kol tumuna asher b'shamayim mimal v'asher ba'oretz mitachas v'asher b'mayim mitachas Chatz la'aretz lo yishtachave Elohem v'lo yisavdem ki anochi Adonai Elohecha elkana peked avon avon yisal banim al bi'al shileshim v'yal ribeim l'seinoi v'yoseh chesed la'alofim lo'oi havai u'l'shemrei mitzvosoi lo'oi sisa es shem Adonai Elohecha la'shav Ki lo yenake Adonai es asher yisa es shmoi lashov Shomer es Yohem HaShabbos lekadshoi kasher tzivcha Adonai Elohecha sheshes yamim tavod v'yasisocha melachtecha v'yom hashvi'i Shabbos l'Adonai Elohecha lo esasecha melacha Ata uvincha v'itecha v'avdecha v'amosecha v'sheircha v'chamerecha v'chol behemtecha v'gercha asher bishorecha leman yanuach avdecha v'amascha kamecha v'zacharta ki eved ha'yisa b'yeretz Mitzrayim v'yetziacha Adonai Elohecha misham b'yod chazaka u'b'zroya netuya al kein tzivcha Adonai Elohecha la'asu eises yom HaShabbos Kabed es avicha v'yesimecha kasher tzivcha Adonai Elohecha leman yarichun yamecha uleman yitablach al ha'adama asher Adonai Elohecha nosein loach lo tirtzuach ולא תנאף, ולא תגנוב, ולא ישנב ריחו עת שוב, ולא יסח מית אשת ריחו, ולא יסבר בישרייך, שדהו ויעבדוי ועמסי שירי וחמרי, וכהן אשר לריחו. Those are the 10 commandments which you'd normally be reading in the shul. They are read to a special tune, so it's slightly different from the way they appear in the Chumash, because they're divided up not according to verses, but according to commandments. And so sometimes one commandment goes over several verses. So it's read as if it's one long verse. So there's the content of this week's Seder. I'm sure you know the 10 commandments. The fact that the first one is honor the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. The second one is you shall have no strange gods, no graven images. The third is not to take the Lord's name in vain. The fourth is to remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. The fifth, or in this case, to guard the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. The fifth is to honor your father and your mother. The sixth is not to kill. The seventh is not to commit adultery. The eighth is not to kidnap. The ninth is not to be a false witness. And the 10th is not to be envious of your fellow man and anything that he possesses. The Shabbos this week begins at 8:44, although we usually bring it in at the 8 o'clock hour, and finishes at 10:07. The chapter that we're studying this week is the chapter of the Ethics of the Fathers, chapter 3. Yahrzeits are as follows. On Sunday, Alan Kay has Yahrtzeit for his mother, Sarah Rivka Bas Yecheskel Betzalo, and Claire Viel and Stephen Wilson have Yahrtzeit for their mother, Sarah Bas David. On Tuesday, Audrey Moore has Yahrtzeit for her brother, which is husband to Marnie Winston, Yitzchak Nasanel Ben Chaim. Anne Young has Yahrtzeit for her sister, which I presume is Marguerite Rose, but I don't have the name here. On Wednesday, Ian Blasky has Yahrtzeit for his father. I don't have the name here either. On Thursday, Judy Simons has Yahrtzeit for her mother, Yena Bas Yitzchok, and Julian Field has Yahrtzeit for his father. That is on Friday. As Chanech Lev ben Shlomo HaKohen. I'm sure it has not escaped your attention this week that there's been a boycott of some social media platforms for allowing a rap artist called Wiley, who's known as the grandfather of grime. I couldn't think of a better word for it myself. He has allowed and reposted some very anti-Semitic posts. He's now been banned from those platforms for good. His work was taken down, although those particular platforms, Twitter, Instagram, did not remove his posts immediately. Tell me what you think of the following. They want me to believe you are different. They want me to believe you are other. They want me to believe you're not like me, that you're not my sister or my brother. They try to tell me not to be your friend, that the divide is too great. They try to make me misunderstand you. They try to fill my heart with hate. I only know that when I look in your eyes, I see me staring back. And when you smile at me, I have no knowledge of white, yellow, red, brown, or black. So no, I will not turn from you or take my hand from yours. For the heart to function properly, we need the beat and the pause. It's written by Anthony Tinsley from Litherland. And there's a lot one can say about that. I'm sure you would have noticed the emails that went out from the president of the United Synagogue, Mr. Goldstein, and if you're on the Zoom with Jonathan Arkush, who did an excellent interview on Tuesday, you would have heard a lot more with regard to this issue. It seems like anti-Semitism is here, and as much as we try and educate, every now and then it rears its ugly head. It is said in this week's Sedra, it's a quick thought, that when God spoke the Ten Commandments, it was a kol gadol v'lo yosef. It was a great voice with no end, lo yosef, no end. It's not clear what that yosef means. And the Medrash says, lo basko, that it didn't have an echo. When God spoke, there was no echo. Why is a matter for discussion. But one can ask a very sort of childish question: how comes there was no echo? The louder the voice, the greater you expect the echo to be. And the answer is very straightforward. How is an echo produced? Because as you speak, the sound hits something and bounces back. That something is a blockage. It stops the sound going further and reflects it back. So when you shout in the mountains, you hear your voice heating the mountain tops and then reflecting back on yourself. In other words, there's a barrier. When God speaks, there's no barrier. When the Torah talks, there's no barrier to whom the Torah is talking. It's talking to everybody, no matter what your shape, size, orientation, or color may be. This is a message perhaps we need to emphasize. And the comfort which I mentioned earlier, is knowing that God speaks to everyone. There is no echo. There is only a direct communication, because nothing stands in the way of the good Lord's voice. And sometimes if there are people who don't hear it, then we have to recite those words. We have to send out the message. And the message must go out to all mankind to say that every human being makes a difference, no matter what color you are, what size, what shape, or what your religious beliefs may be or may not be. There is still only one God, and He says, I am the Lord your God. And He says that to everybody, no matter the Jew or the Gentile, and so on. So we wish you a very comforted Shabbos. Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. Let's look forward to the greatest comfort that could possibly be, is that we will have the one and only Mashiach, and to get rid of all pandemics, and no more masks, and no more social distancing, which is an awful word. Physical distancing, yes. Social distancing? No, I don't want to be socially distant from anybody. And that will happen with the building of the third Beis Hamikdash, not the other two that got destroyed yesterday. The third Beis Hamikdash, which will never get destroyed. And that will happen through you doing all of your wonderful mitzvahs and spreading the word, and make sure there's nothing that's a barrier to the voice of the good Lord. Wishing you a very good chance.